Elevate TV, advancing kingdom lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Gigi Report, but this is a continuation of a conversation we had in the last episode, and I have the same guest here with me, and we decided we're going to talk more. So this is a continuation of the conversation we had, but we are going to focus on how to build a nation from the ground up. And my guest is Mr. Gilbert Geshu. He's a governance practitioner, expert, and he's worked with many nations as part of UN. He was a UN senior official and has a lot of experience in very, very many nations. And so my guest doesn't need introduction. So welcome to the show one more time.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Thank you, Bwana Gigi.
Yes, yes.
Pastor, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Gilbert Geshu, I want us to continue with this conversation we had in the previous episode. And there are people who are watching this maybe a week after they watched the other one. So we'll assume this is a completely new week. And there are a lot of things we didn't quite go into because of time, but this time round, I want us to go into them. I want us to focus on how to build a nation from the ground up. By that, I mean nations, especially when a nation is being formed, you've participated in actual, when a nation goes into a referendum to become an independent nation. So meaning they are starting from zero.
From zero.
They have to set up a civil service. They have to set up a president's office. They have to build even a state house if there was any. And some of them actually, like East Timor, you described in the last show, how it was razed to the ground. So I guess even buildings, government buildings were destroyed. So you have to literally build the actual physical buildings. So, and then how difficult that is, because you see, Kenyans take for granted the fact that we have a state house to fight about, and other institutions that exist, and buildings and structures. So that's the core of this conversation. And we are allowed to go into other things. If we think there are some people who are doing wrong, we'll talk about them and mention their names. We'll be a little bit bold this time around. You've given me permission because now, you fired yourself out of your last job. So I guess, you can now speak freely. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. This is the Gigi Report. And as always, the Gigi Report is a platform for big, bold, and honest conversation. We go into the depth of the issues, and we're going to have a very, very serious conversation here. So get ready, share the links, let your friends know we are here live on Elevate TV. We are live through the social media platforms. You are going to enjoy this conversation. So welcome and join us in the party. And make sure, as you're watching in the social media platforms, you leave your footprint. If you have a comment, leave it there. We can look at it. If you have a guest that you think we should interview and you have a link, please let me know. And that would be very, very helpful. So in that way, you can participate. So, Gilbert, let's go back to the conversation. How do we build a nation from the ground up? And you can give us some of the examples. So I'll give you the liberty.
I actually thought you were going to avoid these kinds of questions, but because building a country from scratch is an extremely difficult job.
Yes.
And But it's also an opportunity, a huge one. Because if we start right, then we can build our country, into a model state.
Okay.
For example, and I will say this, in a country which starts from a referendum, I mean, like East Timor was touched, it was destroyed. And if you think I'm kidding, go online and look at even satellite maps from space. East Timor is like, it's an island, but it's half of the island. The other half belongs to Indonesia.
Yes.
But it's like a banana. It actually looks like a banana. So imagine a banana chopped into two.
Okay.
Now, this half of the island, plus a few islands, small islands, is what is called Timor-Leste, East Timor. And, of course, everything was destroyed. Everything. By everything, I mean, even, all the banks were looted, destroyed, water sources were polluted. We were evacuated to Indonesia.
Okay.
The local population escaped into the mountains. When we came back 3 weeks later, I was one of the first people to offer to go back. Because I thought to myself, we came to help these people. We don't know what is happening to them. Let me go. So I offered to go back. The house where I used to stay was down. It had been burnt down with everything we owned. All the animals had been shot dead.
They were shooting even the animals?
The entire place was full of stench of, dead animals. All the water wells were stuffed with dead animals and dead people.
Yes.
Imagine you have that trauma and you have to build a state.
Okay.
So we were involved. I was involved. Like in my area, I had to recruit and vet people for the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. So all the medical personnel, anybody who claimed to have a certificate, I had to use, of course, local interpreters, trusted ones, to look at their documents, then use send them to the national headquarters for them to vet them. Of course, to do this, we had to work with UN agencies, UNICEF and UNDP and others. And we were doing this to try to start. And our foundation was actually a good foundation because we never allowed ghost workers.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Here we have a lot of them. we
never allowed
a ghost invasion.
They are starting with ghosts.
Yes, so we had no ghosts.
Yes.
And anybody who was supposed to be working was working. And we had to train them.
Okay.
So we got consultants to come and to train them on how to run a civil service. We had to take some of the nationals to Australia for further training, a year or two. I mean, we had to train everyone.
How to run
a civil service.
Yes.
How to do, if it was accounting, they had to vet everybody. They had to work under the UN for quite a while, with the UN being a co-decision maker, even though they had voted for a president.
Yes.
I mean, an election was organized. And,
They voted one of their own as a leader.
Yes. Yes.
But the UN had to be a co-decision maker.
Yes.
So that the president in charge
yes.
had to defer decisions.
I had to get the UN special representative's approval or authorization or agreement
yes.
to take any national action.
Okay.
So building a new state is a difficult thing. Thankfully for us in Kenya, we don't have to build a new state.
Yes.
But I believe we have to reboot almost all our institutions. You
can say that again. Yeah.
I'm not saying that what has been happening here has not been a good thing. For example, today I give a lot of respect to our former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, because of what has happened in this country. This country, there are few places where you won't find a connection between county capitals, tarmacked.
Yes.
One of those places, of course, is between Kitui and Makueni. They still have a planned road, and they say they will begin doing it.
Yes.
But that is one. But a lot of other places are connected and by good roads.
Yes.
We should be thankful.
Absolutely.
There are people I've seen trying to talk down on our former president.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, no, you can't do that. You cannot disrespect.
Yeah, and you know, Mr. Gesho, it's because we don't have a comparison. We just are kind of like naive in some way.
No, Kenyans are either naive or
Arrogant?
They have a fake arrogance or fake confidence.
Yes.
About our Kenyanness.
Okay.
But honestly, we do not even measure up to what could be considered developed countries.
Yes.
We don't. Because the majority of our people live below the poverty line.
Yes.
There are people who don't have enough to eat. There are places where there is no security. There are places where people only think of lights as a dream. They see them only when they go to the next village. In their homes, there is no water. Like there are places I know where people have to walk like 30, 40, 50 kilometers one way to look for water.
And some of those are counties that are headed by very well-educated people.
Very well-educated people.
Yes.
But then there is the issue of mismanagement again of the resources of the counties.
Okay.
But if you go to these county governors and tell them, let me support you to fight corruption, they will never agree. Or they can never want to be put under the microscope to check whether everything they are doing is legal and whether it benefits the citizens.
And debate about legal, because again we are talking about building a republic from the ground up. So, and we could even say counties are very good examples of institutions that are being built fresh.
Yeah.
So you're saying, for example, the issue of the legal, whether what the governor is doing is legal.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had anyone sue a governor in respect to an action, a decision that has been made and claiming that this is illegal.
I mean, what do you mean, Bwana Gigi? Pastor?
Yes.
Look, if somebody misappropriates, they misuse public money, is that legal?
That is illegal.
That is illegal. There is a governor, a former governor, I won't mention the name. When I looked at the report, the Auditor General's report,
yes,
everything which had been done in terms of expenditure was illegal.
Okay.
For a particular, actually 2019-2020 financial year.
Okay.
And I kept wondering, what was this person doing? Where was this person when all this was happening? And I can tell you that somebody had called me from that county to ask me what I thought about that person. They had an interest. They wanted to know before they voted.
Yes.
And then I looked at this person and I looked at their record, because normally you can only judge somebody from their record.
Yes.
And my language was not flattering at all.
Yes.
I told them, this person taking that seat, you will see misappropriation of public funds. Today is exactly what I said. So in building a state from scratch, or even a county,
yes,
we need honest people.
Yes.
We need people who will stand to be counted when it comes to working with the resources they have.
Okay.
We need people who will try and inform themselves about what the law says so that they don't walk away from the law when it comes to expenditure. There are things which you cannot do. You cannot use public funds without the agreement of the county assembly, for example.
Yes.
You cannot do certain things without getting the agreement of the control of budget. The control of budget must
yes,
and authorize that.
Yes.
Even for parliament.
Yes.
But when the control of budget says no or raises objections, then we have a problem. There is a country I worked in where the Auditor General, and it was a lady, and I think we should encourage our ladies to get these jobs,
yes,
to get a proper education like they have done, a lot of them have.
Yes.
And to elevate themselves. Let me use the word elevate themselves.
Yes.
To really stop pushing themselves down.
Yes.
And to see themselves as capable.
Yes.
Because women, very few women, very few are thieves. Yes. They are honest people.
Yes.
Because they look at, like if you elect a woman governor, majority, not all, but majority will start seeing the young unemployed people as their children.
Yes.
So they are like, no, we have to engage these young people. And what do we want in Kenya? We want jobs for our youth, right?
Yes.
We do not have, a madman yet in this country to take these young people and employ them. Countries where they have had mad people, because they are there. Yes. I mean, people are so driven by hunger for power that they lose sight of the country. Yes. Like Sierra Leone had one 4-day Sanko. You remember that man? Yes. You read about him? Yes. He was a photographer,
You can talk about that.
He was a photographer in the military. And he was a junior officer, he was a sergeant or something like that. But he was also very ambitious. So when he saw that there was this system of government where we were excluded, he went into the bush. And people don't know forests. I hear people talk about forests in Kenya. No, we have no forests here. Go to DRC, these countries, Central Africa. Go to West African countries, and you know what a forest is.
Okay.
Places where once you get under the trees, you have to use a torch. It's so dark. And it rains because the trees are dropping water throughout. Yes. That's why we must plant more trees in Kenya. They give rain. Yes. They pull water from there, they bring it. Now, to build, to really challenge the system, that man went into the forest and he got a lot of young people.
And they went to the forest with him?
And they went to the forest with him. They were trained. He was trained by Muammar Gaddafi. Okay. You remember those days when Muammar Gaddafi used to try to foment revolution in Africa? Yes. Of course, our neighbor here in the west, to our west, was a byproduct of that system. Okay. And a lot of other people, they were supported by Muammar Gaddafi. So he supported them. The man started war there. He supported others. They started a war later in Ivory Coast and in Liberia. Those were all supported by Muammar Gaddafi. And the idea was they wanted to get rid of the dynasties so that they can have I almost used the word proletariat. Yes, the small guys in charge of the country. Okay. But the danger of revolution without ideology is that the country gets far worse than it had before. Absolutely. Liberia in the 70s was a middle-income country. I don't know whether you know that.
That's very puzzling.
Yeah. But today, when you look at among the poorest countries in the world, Liberia is there, despite their natural resources. The reason being that the civil service, which existed before they started the war, most of them left the country. Okay. How do you hang around where people want to kill you just because you belong to a certain ethnic, community? Yes. How? You run away. So they all ran to America.
So the civil servants...
The Liberians left.
They just left.
The country was taken over by warlords.
Yes.
And those who refused to go away, or those who came back, they are trying. But today we have challenges in the country. We have a very innocent man. I call him innocent, George Weah. A former footballer, very popular. He grew up in the ghetto. But for him to run a country, it's difficult. So we need, the next thing I'm saying we need is a proper civil service. But that has to be trained. We need honest people. Because we need a proper foundation. Of course, we need people who are committed to staying and having a national ideology. In Kenya, we don't have anything. I think our ideology is the ideology of the stomach. So as long as you can eat, then you are Bwana Mkubwa, you are called Mheshimiwa. And I'm sure hata wewe, ukiingia hapa unaambiwa yes sir, you know. Unaona unavaa suit na tie, then you become Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
And I'm looking at these guys and wondering, why do they misuse the term honorable? Even when they run for MCR, why don't you wait until you are elected, then you can have the title?
Absolutely. So I want to hear a little bit more. In Liberia, and even East Timor. So when you're building a civil service, what are the key elements? Maybe we can talk about education, parliament, those.
Yeah,
some of the key institutions.
We can talk about those institutions. Of course, to make the laws which govern the civil service, you need a parliament.
Okay,
right?
So that's the starting point.
Yes. Reason being that you cannot do anything ad hoc.
Yes.
It must be in law. A country like Liberia has very old laws. This country was established in
1847, I checked it
1847.
out. Yes.
So it's like more than, it's very old.
Yes.
It is almost going to 200 years very soon. And it was an organized country. The laws are there. But when you have the law and you have people in charge of implementing those laws who are corrupted, what happens? It's like giving a shamba, a tractor to somebody who has no idea how to run the tractor to till your land.
Okay.
They will not do it. You will come and find they've messed. I had that experience once. I hired a tractor guy, but huyu jamaa was high on I don't know what. So instead of putting the plow down and going in straight lines, he ran around the place in half hour, a very short time. He came and said, "Pay me, I've finished."
Anyway.
So, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We need people who have a focus. We need the laws. We need educated people, of course.
Yes.
We cannot run a country with, actually, maybe we can. In Kenya, the very first crop of Jomo Kenyatta's cabinet, they were not highly educated. Yet there were people who are committed. But the good thing for them was that they had the Muzungu still around, helping them. Right? Many of those people were primary school dropouts. And they knew how to read and write. But some of the institutions today, even some of the ministries today, were founded by those guys. And they are doing well with the laws which were set in place at independence.
That time. So the law is important.
It is important,
and I think, I know it may sound like very dry academic thing, but it's just that when the laws are not in place, and in the last episode, we actually
or if the laws are self-serving.
Yes.
Like in our case here,
yes.
Our anti-corruption laws, which were passed by Parliament.
Yes.
Definitely, when you look at them, they are definitely self-serving. They don't really live up to.
They don't have teeth.
They don't have teeth.
Okay.
The reason they don't have teeth, we can only ask, hopefully this Parliament will change those laws and make it impossible for you to hang around if you are corrupt.
Absolutely.
Because that is the only thing which will help this country. I can tell you.
So let's talk about something when you're building a country from the ground up and the civil service and all that. What's the role of, say, like legacy, colonial legacy, for example? One of the conversation that is going on, I know it's a very, very complex conversation. The other day, some people said they are not going to mourn the Queen because, I think they say good riddance. She's out. These guys, they came here, they colonized us, they robbed us, and all that kind of, all manner of evil. We sound very evangelistic when we are talking about it.
Pastor, those people are fake.
Yes.
How do you mourn somebody you don't know? You get what I'm saying?
Or even not mourn.
Or not mourn. You don't know the Queen. You read about the Queen. You don't even know her. Does she even know you?
So you may mourn or may not mourn.
It's your choice. It's your choice. Why? I mean, okay, if you are head of this country, Kenya being a Commonwealth country, you go. like our president did.
Yes.
Get into the bus and get carted to the location and do your thing. It's okay. No problem. And you understand why.
Yes.
You know, they say we had to bring people, no private means was allowed into the venue. Otherwise, there would have been a big logistical nightmare. So those people were even making jokes that our president could only be sent there in a bus.
Yes.
I look at them and I'm thinking, these guys are either living in a village or they don't even know what was happening.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment. You have lived in Europe, and
how do you take that huge crowd into one venue and allow everybody to go in their vehicle?
And they are motorcade, for that matter.
A motorcade.
So
the thing is, we whether we mourn or not mourn, it's our choice. So about the colonial legacy.
Yes.
If that's what you want us to talk to, right?
Yes.
The colonial legacy, you know, you can either love what we went through as a country or hate it. Okay, we are not, I mean, look at us now. We are speaking to each other in English.
Yes.
Wearing ties.
And taking tea.
And taking, you know.
Yeah.
That is not African. Is Siongo African? Right? I'm
gonna cut you short. I'm gonna cut you short because we want to go into a short break, but because I want us to return to that.
Yes.
I want us to return to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really want to hear from this man. You know, this man has been, you know, he's helped build countries from the ground up. So some of us, sometimes we probably speak because we don't know. And I think it's good to hear from others who have the right experience. So don't go away. Stay tuned. We are coming back. We take a very short coffee break. Grab yourself a cup of tea. Keep it Elevate TV. We continue with this conversation.
Good marketing makes the company look smart. Great marketing makes the customer feel smart. Are you looking for a place to advertise your upcoming conference, church meeting, or ladies' meeting? Look no further. Elevate TV is offering you a chance to advertise from as low as 5,000 Kenyan shillings. Talk to us today. Call us on 0705 872237.
Welcome back. This is the Gigi Report. We are talking about how to build a country from the ground up. I have my guest with me. This is part 2 of a conversation we began last week and in a previous episode. And therefore, we are trying to deal with this matter of governance and how do you build a nation from the ground up. And before we went to the break, we were talking about colonial legacy. What do you do with that? So my brother Gilbert, so that colonial legacy, our young people are buying into an idea that, look, these white people, our colonists, they left us poison. They poisoned our mind. And so we cannot escape, you know, some kind of doo-doos in our heads that kind of, or even if it's not, you know, most people will point at the other guy. Those other guys, you know, they have the doo-doos, they have the, the poison, the colonial legacy. Yeah. Some mysterious people who somehow seems to be running this country like ghosts from heaven, some colonial ghosts hanging over us. So please speak to that because our young people need to get that out of the way.
You know, Bwana Gigi, my brother.
Yes.
Kenya can move away from that kind of thinking. Colonialism and the results of colonialism what has happened since independence, it's neither here nor there. Honestly, look at countries which got independence at the same time as Kenya. Malaysia. Go to Malaysia today.
I have been to Kuala Lumpur.
Go to Singapore. I've been too.
Yes.
Go to Singapore. I've been too.
Yes.
And look at their level of development. Even go online and check the GDP. It's much higher than what we have. What they eliminated, number one, is that thought that these Wazungus are better than we are. Wazungus are not better than we are. They just used their muscle at that time to develop the what I call the Protestant ethic, right?
Yes.
But also to develop capitalism and sell it all over.
Yes.
But we knew capitalism before they came here. Go to Turkana. In Turkana, they used to get iron ore from Ukambani. The Wakambas used to trade with them, right? Beads from the coast. It was taken there, Mishale, Masais, before they got iron ore.
So we knew how to trade.
We knew how to trade before
and to exchange goods
and services.
And be clear and clean and use currencies, whatever form it was.
It was barter trade, but it used to happen.
Absolutely.
Now, the idea that the Muzungu is the problem is not true. The Muzungu left.
Yes.
We can blame the institutions which the Muzungu left, but we can improve them. We can eliminate what we don't need.
Yes.
We can speak up as our own selves. We can say no to unfair trade practices, for example. Completely unfair. For example, why should the International Coffee Organization have its headquarters in London?
Coffee, and not in Addis or Nairobi or Mombasa. Okay. Yeah,
so you remember we used to have
practical issues now we can speak into.
The cocoa, for example, let's take Botswana. Look what has happened to Botswana. After Botswana said, we will not trade our diamonds in London. We will trade them here. If you want our diamonds, come here. What happened? They trained their people now to cut them, add value, right? And now Botswana, just from that and beef, they have developed their country. Go to Botswana. Their GDP is much higher, right, than ours here. So while about 20, 30 years ago, Botswana was like a poor place. If you are traveling there from Kenya, you had to carry soap. Because Botswana. You are not sure. Yes. You are not sure whether you would get soap or toothpaste. Go read. I have people I talked to who went,
in the 30 years ago.
In the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
Botswana was a poor place.
But they stood up.
They stood up and said no. Right? The other thing is, you look at countries like Singapore. Singapore got one strong leader. Even Malaysia, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. The other place is Q.
Lee Kuan Yew.
Lee Kuan Yew, yes. The man brought that country in his lifetime from a marshland, a place where everybody lived in a shack, to a model state.
Yes.
In his lifetime. He just passed how many years ago?
To 2016.
2016.
Yes.
Not too long ago. But yet the man from 1960s led his country. What has happened to our country here? Corruption. The one thing I want to agree with those young people on how the young, the Muzungu came and brought systems which encourage corruption. Getting people who are not deserving to be in charge of the communities. They made people who are not really the real leaders, chiefs.
Okay.
They overthrew the traditional systems of governance.
And they were doing that.
And they brought those who complied, who agreed with them and made them chiefs. Certainly. Those who licked their boots.
Certainly. So the
young guys have a point.
Yes, so they have a point that actually we inherited a legacy of
reaping where you didn't sow.
Yeah, nepotism,
cronyism and bootlicking and all of that.
Okay.
Yes. Tribalism also.
Okay.
Because look at even the way our society was structured. The Muzungu never employed a Kikuyu as an accountant. I can tell you that. They employed a Mukamba. because they found out the campers were not people you can go and corrupt. They also came and pushed our campers into the military.
You
know that story.
The reason why I really like what you are saying is because that's what young people need to hear.
Yeah.
So that you're now being more specific.
Yeah.
So that then we don't just say the colonial legacy in general.
Yeah.
We are more specific.
Yeah.
Exactly. Go on.
So they pushed those into the military. And that system was continued by Jomo Kenyatta, first Kenyatta, and Moi, until a particular level, then others started coming in. Right? Why did they do that? Because they found out that by nature, the campers are very peaceful people. They don't like free things. They don't like theft.
And they have always been traders and craftsmen.
And they have always been craftsmen, traders, so they work for what they have. I've always said to some of my Kikuyu friends, even guys from, Kalenjin friends, I have friends who are like police officers working in Kitui, where I come from. I come from Kitui Central.
Yes.
And if you go to Kitui, even people from Mwingi will tell you Kitui Central is better. But go there now, this time of the year, it's very dry. Very dry. Much, much drier than I've ever seen it in my life. But the thing is, we grew up as kids. We were brought up to respect order, to be clean, to respect government.
And work.
And to work.
And to be honest.
And to be honest, especially.
Would you link that to the missionary efforts, because Kambas were some of the first people to receive the gospel and to have the Bible translated?
Maybe not.
Yes.
Actually, I always tell people, when you look at Kamba traditional law, you've read Professor John Mbiti.
I haven't.
Right? No, you should.
Yes.
Professor John Mbiti's book on African religions and philosophy.
Yes.
He gives a few examples about Kambas. Like, love, marriage, what happened when you did. You were never allowed to do things outside of what was set.
Okay.
Otherwise, the punishment would be grave.
Yes.
And you would pay. And the pay was not little. So you had to stay in the right path by not being a mkora.
Yes, yes, yes.
Our dad told us that you must be honest in your life. And he put a gate in his compound, and he said, if you want to go and become a drunkard, move away from here, go to that side. Yes. Or you are dishonest, go to that side. Because if you do that, you will be cast. And luckily for him, his children listened to him,
and including yourself. And
yes.
you saved yourself. You went through the straight and narrow. And
I did. But let me tell you something else. Something else. Maybe it's about time I say something about my faith as a Christian.
Yeah.
You cannot sustain certain things unless God is in you.
Yes.
You will follow the law. But when you follow the law without faith, you are a slave to the law.
Yes.
And you will fail. You cannot always succeed. But when you have the Holy Spirit in you, helping you, you succeed.
Okay.
You will succeed. Now, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the legacy of colonialism.
Legacy of colonialism.
Yes.
So our young people have a point. But our young people are forgetting that those colonialists who came here were coming here to work.
Yes.
They were working. They were adventurous. They started these coffee plantations and tea plantations.
Yes.
Kenya today exports tea and coffee.
Thanks to
colonialism.
Yes.
We have a system of education.
Whose
origin is, British
colonialism. By the way, if you look at some of the big schools, like the school you went to, Alliance High School, where, most of Kenyan's elites were educated. You guys are very, very happy and proud about that.
No,
school.
we are, because when you go to Alliance, you learn, you must be strong.
Okay.
You learn to serve, you must be strong. In fact, the school motto is strong to serve. You cannot just be strong and not serve.
Absolutely.
That your strength should be given to others.
Okay.
That's why
that's a very Protestant ethic, foundation.
Yes.
And Alliance was established which year, if you remember?
1926.
Absolutely.
And it was a combination of Anglican Church, Presbyterian Church, and AIC, African Inland Church, and I think one or two others.
Yes.
They set up the school.
Okay.
That's why they called it Alliance High School.
Oh, yeah, because it was an alliance,
of
the other evangelical,
yes.
Protestant churches.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful story.
Yes.
So what you're telling our young people is, yes, education is a positive legacy of the colonial rulers. And agriculture and things like that. And we can go into that finer details. Anyway, let's go back to our story of building a nation from the ground up.
Maybe before we go back.
Yeah.
I think the young people should stop blaming the problems a country like Kenya faces on colonialism.
Yes.
They should. Because Kenyans ran this country from the time we got independence.
Yes.
There are countries like I was mentioning, Malaysia, Singapore, who ran away, who said we are not dealing with these institutions. We will build our own country.
Okay.
Kenya can we can build this country. We have enough human resource. We have enough resources as a country, natural resources. We can actually develop this country. Singapore had nothing except the sea, the ocean.
And a port.
And a port.
Actually, there was just a route,
they just
a place where people passed.
Where people passed to get water, But today is a transshipment area, major one.
Absolutely. Absolutely amazing. The story of Singapore is amazing. I read the Lee Kuan Yew books, the last one he wrote, A One Man's View of the World.
Yes.
Amazing story.
It's an amazing story.
So, you could also maybe mention, how do you see Liberia, for example, was established by the local people, the
Americo-Liberians, freed slaves, even Sierra Leone, yes.
1847, almost 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And so what exactly happened? They can't blame colonialism, for example.
Maybe they can. One thing we are not ever told, the rest of Africa is never told about Liberia, is that class of Liberians who set up the country always perceived themselves as Americans first.
Okay.
So they came and they almost behaved like the colonialists. They colonized the local communities.
Okay.
And that is why when, Samuel Canyon Doe took over, he had a military coup, was it in 1989? That is why he was supported.
Yes. Because it was a counter-reaction.
It was a counter-reaction to these guys. It's a small population which is sitting on the rest of us.
Okay.
And they themselves had a legacy of colonialism. Those original Liberians who came, they
behaved like
colonialists.
Behaved
like the colonialists.
Okay, and there was colonialists because they had some, maybe also they were actually sons and,
They came from anywhere in Africa. We have no idea whether they came from Liberia, basically.
Yes.
But that is where they went. They set up a colony in a place called Maryland. They even named it as Maryland, like the state of Maryland.
Okay.
They called Liberia, because of land of liberty.
Okay.
And then they named their capital Monrovia after President Monroe.
Okay.
So they had that connection. Liberia, where did Liberia go wrong? That's what you were asking.
Yes.
Liberia's history, it's a very complex history.
Yes.
I can only say this, basically.
Yes.
Any country, not just Liberia, but any country, even here,
yes,
which does not respect the law or its institutions or set up institutions to serve the people. If you set up institutions to oppress the people instead of serving the people, they are bound to say no. And one day somebody will rise up and say no and lead those people. Ask, if you could, the Egyptians about Moses.
Like Moses is
he's a liberator.
He's a liberator.
Yes.
He's the father of all the liberators.
Yes.
Including our Kenyan liberators.
Yes.
Who have been using exactly the same language.
Yeah.
Leading people to Canaan.
Moses, here they've been saying that. Oh, yeah, they've been saying that. But Moses led those people out because God saw the unfairness.
Yes.
You know, God sees unfairness when it happens. You know, sometimes I don't know whether not even our leaders, whether leaders really know that there is a God greater than they are in heaven.
Yes.
Who looks at how they treat their subjects.
Okay.
And you know, God can never be on the side of those who rule if they are being unfair. He will raise somebody else to, I'm sure you've read the Old Testament. You remember Jehu?
Yes.
The general. God told Samuel, go and anoint Jehu. How many states, how many countries were overthrown at that time? If you read that story around Jehu, how many people did Samuel anoint? 7. 7. And there were 7 coups after Jehu's coup. God will always raise somebody to say no.
Absolutely.
This country, those who lead, should respect the citizens.
And by the way, we're going to call, that is what I want us now to focus on.
They should respect the law and set up a law which serves the people, not themselves.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's the big question. The role of the citizen.
Yeah.
The individual.
Yes.
You and me.
Yes.
So maybe that you can expound on that as we wrap this
up. The citizens, for example, one of the things I feel like for the last 5-10 years, maybe a bit more, we have failed. Civil society has failed in Kenya because you no longer see real groups talking about governance in Kenya. You see a few groups talking about the environment, which is good.
Yes.
And then you see another few crazy ones talking about, gay rights and stuff like that, which here is for us, no. That is not an issue for us. Even President Ruto has said that.
Exactly.
President Uhuru had said that before.
Yes.
And if I was to be asked, although CNN is a good, purveyor of international news, I think their standards are very, Eurocentric.
Okay.
Why should they come to talk to us instead of asking President Ruto what plans he has to develop Kenya and how he's going to make sure there is cohesion and development and all of that? They are talking about those things in the few minutes they have.
In their gender wars, they are bringing them here. No. Okay.
Let them continue with that. But for us here, we do our own thing. We have a country which must respect the law, right? Which must rule itself based on the law. And you are asking me about the
citizen.
The citizen. Where the citizen takes precedence as a beneficiary of the law, not as a victim.
Yes.
You only become a victim if you break the law.
Okay.
Right? The citizens must hold their government to account. And that's why I'm talking about civil society.
Yes. So
civil society,
yes,
and then the church.
Yes.
Or the mosque, wherever somebody comes from. They must demand right for the citizens. We shouldn't keep quiet. I think the church has become either too compromised. It's led by people who are too much money-centric. They're only interested in pesa. If you give them money, they will not criticize you. They will bless you instead. Instead of saying no to your money.
And I can understand why nobody wants to invite you among the preachers because, you're talking too much.
I am not a preacher. I can't even make a preacher.
Okay.
I can have a conversation,
yes,
but not preach.
So I want you to speak to that again, just flesh it out a little bit. The focus on the citizen. So what you're saying is civil service, the civil society has prosecuted a number of issues. Key among them is, environment, and some of these subjects we don't want really to magnify. They are not for us. But they have failed, and there is a lack of someone to speak for the citizen.
An empowered citizenship is an empowered country.
Or you can say that again.
Right?
Yes.
If I were to say to the president something about how to support civil society, to support the country. I would actually, I don't know whether they do have that organization which has lost its teeth, that organization where they have the civil society.
The NGO
NGO council.
Yes.
Which you never even hear about.
Yes.
Because it has lost its teeth. I don't know who leads it.
Yes. It used to be Madudi, the lady with the big flowery headgear.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and then she left,
But the thing is, we need to have that group speaking out on behalf of the citizens. The government needs to give them the freedom to do so, to speak, and not to suppress them. I remember, I think was it 2014 or 2015, there was a huge conflict between government and
civil
society.
Yes.
And I was looking at it and thinking, I saw that play in Liberia.
Yes.
I was for the UN, the focal point for relations between government and civil society at the time.
Okay.
When I was in Liberia.
You were in the middle of that.
I was in the middle, and I had to mediate. We had to mediate to the point where I had to bring the government. The minister, luckily for them, was a bit open-minded. So I brought him on board. I brought the heads of civil society, including the church. And then we sat, and it's a process which took more than a year. We sat regularly and wrote an NGO, civil society, national policy document.
Yes.
Which now thrashed out the relations between civil society and government, and the role of government in the management of civil society. So it was very clear, right? I don't know whether, maybe we do have a document here. I'm not sure. We can have a similar exercise. If those guys are not doing their job here, we have the UN here. They can go and talk to Zainab Bangura. She's the head of UN in Nairobi.
Yes. And
she will gladly, I'm sure, because she has an NGO background.
Yes.
She will gladly
help out.
Right?
So that then we thrash out the relationship between the civil society and the government.
Yes.
So that we don't have a fallout again.
We don't have, exactly. And that can be done. And the only way it can be done is to have a policy document, which is then translated into a law. There must be a law.
Yes.
All right? It must pass through Parliament, and Parliament can create a law. That can be done. Same thing happened in that country. National policy on youth, same thing we did. Actually, that one took 2 years to write.
Okay.
And then it went through Parliament and became an act of Parliament.
Okay.
That way you have a law which governs relations between government and civil society. But for me, a lot of our people who get into civil society don't do it for the sake of the country. They get it to get money, donor funds. Once they get the donor funds, they forget
the common
man.
The common man. And so we got to wrap this up. But I think I really want to reiterate what you have raised. The issue of, so government, we have to put the government in check. I think we talked about it in the last episode.
Always, yes.
And we said the civil society must not just focus on talking about peripheral issues.
They should.
We need to bring the common citizen.
In fact, the governance of this country, and whether we succeed or fail.
Yes.
The key neutral voice, and I say neutral because civil society should be neutral.
Yes.
Not take sides with anyone.
Yes.
They should talk to issues of governance. Civil society can do that because the church has taken sides. And for me, I feel, I'm not talking about confronting those in leadership. No. I'm talking about respectfully engaging those who are in leadership on issues which are of concern to the country.
Absolutely.
I believe the president is open.
Yes.
To listening, just like even Kibaki was open, Moi was open, Kibaki was open, Uhuru was open. I believe Ruto will also be open to engaging the religious leaders of this country to make Kenya a better place. But the major problem for this country, my brother, the big elephant in the room is corruption. Whatever we say, the relations between civil society and government can only be pure and really benefit us as a country if there is no element of corruption
in that particular circle.
Yes.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an amazing conversation. We are talking about how to build a nation from the ground up. We've thrashed out a number of issues: education, parliament, civil society, the individual, and their role and their place in society. So, Mr. Geshu, I want you to look at that camera, and I want you to speak to the Kenyan Mwananchi, and especially the young people, and tell them one final thing, how they need to engage in 30 seconds, a very brief one, as you also wish them well.
Yeah, if it's talking to Kenyans, generally, as a country, we will never develop if we don't deal with corruption. The young people, I think, should know that there is nothing for free. They must use their minds to create wealth, to challenge themselves, and not necessarily run around to get cheap things. There is no free lunch anywhere in the world. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep it there. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very interesting conversation. I hope you have enjoyed and learned a lot. And thank you very much, Mr. Gilbert Geshu, for coming to this show. I know I have,
Geshu, by the way.
Geshu, yes.
It's like guess who?
Yeah, guess who?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you so very much. I really appreciate your time, and recording 2 shows. I think that's been absolutely fantastic, and God bless you so much. I hope to hear from you again. I will drag you around. Please do cooperate, and thank you very, very much indeed. And thank you for your wonderful experience and the ideas you've given to us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an amazing conversation. This is the GG Report. I've been your host, Godfrey Gishoke, and I am signing off. God bless you. Have a great week, and we'll see you another day. Same time, same channel. Bye, and have a great week.